Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Blue Dragon 5 here.
And Jacob Weil.
And tonight, we're back talking.
Wait, Dragon, what did you say the name of the show was?
Alright, let me say it again. Jacob, we're here talking.
Wait, Dragon, did you say the name of the show was?
Yes, I did. That's what I said. I said. Why is it so hard for you to grasp that I'm saying? See?
All right. I get it now.
Okay.
The name of the show is Invincible.
That's right. Episode 6 of Season 3 of Invincible. All I can say is, I'm sorry.
Yes. This was quite a shocking one, in more ways than one.
Oh, yeah.
I mean that both as kind of as a joke relating to the name of the villain, but to the theme of the villain, but definitely in some of the other things that happen within this episode.
Yep, Jacob's laughing at people dying. That's right. Yep.
That's not what I'm laughing at. You can call it dark humor, you can call it very, very, very dark humor.
Yep.
Well, yeah, this is so we finally found out who Aaron Paul's voicing this season.
That's right. Now we had an idea. Here's the thing: we had an idea. I think they announced a while back, that he was playing this character, but I don't think anyone knew when he was going to show up. So him showing up this week was like that was a surprise. And I mean, it figures that with 3 episodes left, he'd have to show up in one of those. And let me tell you, it would be really shocking if it'd be really shocking if he showed up in the finale. So this is probably the best place to put him.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you followed more of the cast announcements than I did regarding that, and I didn't even know he was going to be in this season until you brought him up, when I was on.
Uh huh.
So yeah, seeing him with this was actually quite interesting. You thought I was going to say shocking, didn't you?
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Yeah, this is no offense to Jacob, but I was. It's a shame we couldn't have had Tiki on tonight, only for the Aaron Paul of it all. But he forsake this for the Oscars, so that's why.
Yep.
Yep. Anyway, yeah. So this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a really good kind of like basically before. I would say we're looking at essentially a 2-part finale. Two really big events are likely happening for 7 and 8. So this is kind of like a good kind of like
either that or one big event stretched into 2 episodes.
Right. I mean, they're very separated, but still really big events. Assuming it's going to break down the way I think, but still, we're in for like some major events kind of. So this is kind of like the last. This is kind of a palate cleanser of like just kind of like what do we want Invincible's headspace to be before we really throw what basically the big punchline of this punchline of the season in terms of this is the stuff that he's been grappling with for this season. That we're really going to throw in his face in a big way. We're really paying off a lot of the season 2 stuff in the next 2 episodes. So we want to kind of get him, we just want to kind of tee him up and really have him unsuspecting for what's about to arise, which is this episode.
Oh yeah, a lot of big things are coming within the. A lot of big things are coming.
Big menacing things. Yes.
Yeah, and like not all of them are Viltrumites.
Yep. Bane with a mustache.
One of them even with him with a mustache.
Yeah.
Mark with a mustache. That's how you know it's the most dangerous Invincible there is.
Oh yeah. See, Mark Racing can never grow a mustache.
Yes.
Because if he does, he's evil.
Yeah, but does this Mark have a mustache? That's what I thought. See? Coincidence? I think not.
Don't Bernie me.
Hey, I'm agreeing with you, Dragon.
No, that's the line.
Don't Bernie me. Yeah, I know. But yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, coincidence? No, I don't think so.
All right. Okay. So I guess just getting into it. So right off the bat, I think in the execution, this is something that I don't believe that the execution of this feels very timely and something that we wouldn't have had from the comic, in which Powerplex and what happens pretty much from the comic, but our execution, kind of cinematically for narratively more accurately, I guess, narratively, I was really impressed by it because it really feels like this is Kirkman's answer to what BVS could have been, or at least in concept what BVS could have been. Like, had we made the opening of BVS actually matter into the story versus like, and Superman's being framed for a crime in I think Africa or someplace,
Yeah, and from what I understand, like in the comic, it was like he was like more of like a darkly humorous kind of villain instead of like this tragic one he became in this episode.
Yeah, like for example, I want to say the big shocking moment was not from the comic that I don't know offhand, like how accurate that is. At the very
I
least,
mean, but I understand it happened, just happened differently,
well, yeah,
but obviously in a more like kind of like dark, twisted humor sort of way instead of like oh my god, Jesus kind of way.
oh yeah. So yeah, so we have Aaron Paul as Scott Duval, and
He's
he's
vi-
this
he's visiting his sister and his niece.
is Jessica and Gretchen.
Yep, and early on, and the way his niece plays with him is a good way of demonstrating to the audience without explicitly saying how his powers work.
Basically, he's got a power, but it's a very low level, seemingly, like, in the right hands, a harmless power, which essentially is what it is. Basically, he has the ability to,
absorb kinetic energy and turn it into electricity.
yes, and again, like the niece punches the hands, creates a little charge, but again, like it's not like a giant. He's not being hit with a sledgehammer, and also again, like for all we know, there are limits.
And like I said, like it's a good way of demonstrating to the audience without like blatantly saying it.
And importantly, for our, kind of where Act One starts and where Act Three ends, he's in control of this power. He's very very aware of like, okay, we're not going to go overboard with it.
Yep. Like if he doesn't want to he doesn't want to hurt his niece, obviously.
So again, what I'm saying with narratively is I love that I don't believe we were in the perspective of the Scott Duvall character when the event happened. So basically, the idea of like going to his POV, kind of like we saw Bruce Wayne's POV at the opening of BVS, is a really inspired idea, and I think it's really I was really sucked in by it. Just the idea of like we took one of the right before the train, one of the iconic tragic moments from the Chicago fight between Invincible and Omni-Man, which for me, and I was, because man, I love heroes when they save people. And we've seen Mark in season one. He kind of struggled with sometimes he didn't save people in the best of ways. But I mean, that's not. I'm not saying he was being reckless, but remember he saved the old lady, and she got injured in the process, and he felt really bad about that.
Oh yeah.
And at the in the moment here, in the moment there during the action, right before the train, he basically there was this woman he was rammed into this building. He was trying to stop this collapsing building, and he caught a woman who fell out, and that woman was Jessica, and the little girl was in there too. And again, so he was. We had this horrible, like, tragic moment where he's like holding the severed arm of the lady he attempted to save. When again, the whole building came down. He's trying to stop the building from coming down. So again. It was absolutely not his fault or anything. He did exactly what he could. And it's just physics at work. It's not his fault.
But what Scott sees
is Invincible holding the severed arm of his sister, and Omni-Man just being there, and then there's this kind of F off, and they do their fisticuffs on the ground.
Yeah, even after reviewing the footage at the GA, he still thinks that it's Invincible's fault.
Yes. So, point being, he misinterprets,
like
Invincible, having her arm as malicious, and just that. Then, so it's interesting the way the passage of time works, because you get a sense that when he's with the GDA and he's reviewing that footage, you would assume, okay, so at least he does have the full story and the full coverage of what exactly happened, but he still has his mind pretty made up.
Yep, and I'm going to be. Is it all right if I jump around a little bit forward?
Well, I mean, can I?
Sure. It's more related to his wife.
Yeah.
And like I said, like his wife is kind of enabling it.
Oh yeah.
Like she's not trying to talk him down for like, no, this is not a good path. That you shouldn't be doing. She's like, no, you should totally be doing this. Basically.
So what's really interesting about this episode, and a lot of people have really pointed views on this episode. That's not that's say like they're against the episode. A lot of them are very much like they're really critiquing Powerplex's his arc and his kind of his basically his plan and such. And
Yeah.
it's intentionally flawed. It's very much like this guy. He's not seeing reason. That's the point. But I do like the fact that grand scheme, we are showing that Kirkman's kind of saying in a world where we're trying to really play heroes realistically, not in the really cynical way like the boys. We're playing things realistically. We're okay. If these tragedies with all these casualties happen, how is that going to weigh on a superhero and just kind of in the status quo of the world when you have tragedies of that scale of these just like you know of these proportions and how does someone grieve that and how does the grieving process work? That's kind of the thesis of this episode. Like, is there a proper way to grieve something that we ourselves do not have in the real world that is truly tantamount to like this thing could happen on a regular basis? Like, what if 9/11 could happen monthly? Essentially is what the world of Invincible kind of posits.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean there.
It is very interesting, and the fact that Kirkman's like his stance ultimately is that there are no good answers, and that's the challenge that Mark faces. We don't have necessarily happy endings with them, and it's basically this episode is kind of Invincible dealing with Parker Luck on a huge magnitude.
Maybe it should be called Grace and Luck.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, but here's the interesting thing. I really like that we did it this way. So he's not completely misunderstanding what happened. He's just again we see that again with when he tries with under the misunderstanding he goes to like a DA. He tries going through all the legal channels that he possibly could. And again, you're rooting for the guy. He's rooting for him to a point.
You understand where he's coming from.
Exactly. You understand where he's coming from. He's trying to, get justice for his loved ones and all the other, because again, basically, Omni-Man is gone. Invincible, may or may not have some stuff to answer for. At least in his eyes, he wants closure and he wants he just wants an investigation at first. And the DA basically tells him, well, it's essentially the GDA and everything, so there's no real way to. They basically kind of have like the stamp of like we're going to make this go away because we can't really prosecute that because it's an act of God. Essentially, it's an act of God in tights.
That is a kind of a funny way of putting that.
I mean, pretty much.
I mean, like, what are you gonna do?
Because again, like it wasn't literally a supervillain that perpetrated this, and the supervillain that perpetrated this, he's off world. What can we do? So I mean, with that in mind, it's like he just basically wanted closure, and he was denied closure because of the way this world building works, the way just the status quo of a world of superheroes works, and that really sent him off the deep end. He goes to work for the institution that told him no, so he can try and change it from the inside, which is something we kind of foreshadowed episodes earlier with Samson. Remember, Sam said you can't change anything unless you're changing it from the inside.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, even the DA is just kind of like basically trying to talk him down too, like saying how like that's not a good path to go down, like saying he saved thousands of lives and all that whole argument.
Yep, and makes it clear that no, he was. We all saw, and we can prove the end. He was, he was fighting against the guy who was killing everyone. But that's still,
that's not enough for Scott.
Yeah, Scott simply he wants closure. But here's the fact in there that they don't spell it out in the episode. But the moral that I took away, and again, this could be up to interpretation. This might just be me. The way I read it is at the end of the day, you just go into the end of the episode when he's in the prison. Like to me, it just kind of signified in kind of the telltale game of Invincible's life, one could call it. It really feels to me that Scott needed to hear harsh realities. He needed some tough love, in a sense. Basically, he needed to feel the pain and move onward. And Scott was. Again, in chasing revenge, he denied feeling and just accepting the pain, and because no one ever gave him like a harsh response, he just things spiraled out of control. Like Invincible, for example, at no point, because again, and I love the complexity of this. Invincible played this really smart, and I think play like any logical person would, where he didn't get involved until he absolutely had to, because he knew if he showed up, it would just make things worse and essentially lead to what happened in Act 3. And
Yeah. Oh yeah.
it feels like at some point the thing he should have said, at least the way I look at the episode, the thing he should have said is, "What did you reasonably want me? What did you reasonably want me to do?" That's what he should have said to Scott. It just feels, but again, it still wouldn't have made him feel better. But it would have been like, it's like, should I just have like joined my father and killed everyone? Is that what you wanted me to do? Because again, he saved as many people as he could. He failed miserably at it, but he tried. You know,
Yeah, I mean, what else?
ultimately he saved everyone by chasing them off world. But it's the best he could do.
Well, Dragon, there's something we can say about this situation.
It's not
That
simple.
simple.
Which I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to say that was like the underlining thesis too of the episode. It's not that simple.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's exactly. There's no simple or easy answer here. It's like what Mark couldn't have really done anything else. I mean, it's obviously an unfortunate circumstance, but it's going to happen.
Like the only truth of the grieving process is, I think, and I'm just interpreting this. I don't know if this is accurate from a mental health standpoint, or just like a grieving standpoint, or a counseling standpoint, whatever. Is that it really feels like this is kind of a response to the old, like, when someone dies or something really bad happens, you say to your friend or coworker or whoever, "I'm sorry for your loss." Give a sympathy of some kind. That's not to say it's a disingenuous sympathy, but it's the only thing you can say versus silence. So you have like two responses in that situation, and this feels like a bit of a call out to the whole, like, everyone is giving Scott the "I'm sorry for your loss," and it's not making it any better. And basically, he kind of needed a bit of either Cecil and or kind of like a Nolan, almost, well, maybe not this harsh, but kind of a Nolan Grayson response of like, the harsh reality of like, yeah, it sucks. But hey, the world's not like, I think Cecil more so. Cecil, like, you needed a Cecil to step in. It's like, look, it sucks, but it happens.
Oh yeah,
It's an unconventional response to grief, but it's like, it feels like that's kind of what Kirkman's kind of leaning towards, is that we've heard the condolences, and you can only hear the same condolence so many times, and it's going to drive you a little mad.
I wonder, but no, I don't think. I wonder how Cecil would have tried to console him there.
But that is the other thing too. Cecil, again, we've seen this kind of character flaw in Cecil earlier in the season. Cecil, he compartmentalizes and he prioritizes things over other things. That's what happened with with Doc Seismic. How Doc Seismic kind of got out. He undervalued the threat until like everyone basically, until it was unavoidable.
Well, I think he's learning his lesson though.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So Scott, he's on the inside. He sees the facts and everything, and he's trying to work from the inside to learn about Invincible, presumably for a grand plan, revenge or like of some kind. And he's basically seen the current political thing with the current dilemma with Invincible within the GDA, is that Hero not seeing things our way presents a danger that we are preparing for, and this is arming Scott with kind of what he needs. But again, he's still very much misunderstanding, the point.
Basically, he's suffering from a lot of confirmation bias.
Yeah, exactly. All his negative thoughts of Invincible are being confirmed by a completely different situation.
Yep. And plus, while he's there, he sees it also grants him closer to their technology, allowing him to increase his power.
Yes. Yeah, essentially has kind of these these power booster things that basically embed into his skin, and they kind of magnify they magnify his powers, and basically swipes them in kind of a desperate plea for a revenge plot.
Yeah, and they're like, when he hears one of his coworkers like talking about like it's bullshit, these things happen, these things disappear and they blame us, and he's like, what's BS? His Invincible gets to walk free.
Yeah.
Basically, he's not even like taking into account to consider like maybe Invincible. Like he literally saw the video of Omni-Man holding Mark in front of a train, the oncoming train, and didn't once consider like maybe Invincible is innocent in all this.
Yeah.
But
I think not for a moment do you not feel bad for the guy because of what he lost, and the fact that he is But it's still it's interesting though. Just
But
the fact.
but you want to also understand, like, man, as Debbie points out later, it's like this man is disturbed.
Yes.
I mean, she blatantly points that out later, and like, yeah, he is disturbed.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
So
is that really a wrong thing to say?
no, it's not a wrong thing to say. He is disturbed.
Oh yeah, but and as we mentioned earlier, as I mentioned before, his wife is all in on it.
And again, that's what I'm saying. It feels like the wife. By the way, you did recognize the fun fact about the wife, right?
Um, no,
Okay, you're gonna love this. All right,
yeah,
so obviously we have Aaron Paul doing the voice of Powerplex, right?
yeah.
Now I want to be clear. This is not her doing the voice, but in her character design. I don't know what she looked like in the comic, but it just feels like. So a lot of people have made the connection. I don't know how confirmed it is, but it just given the fact we have some Albuquerque verse alumni, we know for a fact they've been going after Cranston. It does feel a lot like the wife is very much modeled after Kristen Ritter, who was in, of course, before Jessica Jones, very iconically played Jane Margolis in Breaking Bad, who was basically the big girlfriend for Jesse before something very tragic befell her. And it was like the wish fulfillment of like, oh, if only Jesse Pinkman could have been able to have his relationship with Jane, and they could have got clean together, and things would have turned out nicer. Perhaps they would have had a family, kind of like Becky, Scott, and Jack.
Is that the one before the before the go kart thing? Because I have seen that scene in Breaking Bad.
The go kart thing.
Where he goes on the where Jesse goes on the go karts alone.
All right, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to remember when the go kart thing was, but yeah.
And that song, like, this will never end because I want more, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm trying to remember if that was part of the grieving thing or that might have. It was either during the grieving that was in season 4. I'm not sure which one offhand. But yeah.
I mean, you know more about that than I would. I'm just
No,
saying.
no, I do. There's not a lot of people really go towards the go kart thing because I mean I don't want to just like say what happens to her, but let's just say something really bad happens to her.
All right.
The point being, it's just kind of cool if you look at her. So the first thing I was thinking of, man, she looks a lot like Kristen Ritter. I wonder if that has something to do with Aaron Paul.
Maybe.
It could be completely coincidental, but I don't know. That's a very specific design.
I mean, it's entirely possible.
Yeah.
And it just kind of reminded me of her. Now that you mention it.
All right. Anyway, so let's see. So his wife is like a response to the enabling and or just the
I mean, she wants revenge. She wants revenge for her too.
Yeah.
And it is kind of interesting that that they didn't try to like play her. I mean, obviously you sympathize for both of them considering what they're going through, but it's interesting that they're kind of just like she's kind of enabling his behavior. He tries to stop multiple times, but she just kind of like makes him continue. It's actually it's like almost like a toxic thing for both of them. Never once like considering like the life of Dragon.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think?
Well, I mean, yeah, Jacob. Honestly, it kind of, I have to wonder how much of this is intentional, but it kind of feels a little bit of a nod to Breaking Bad in terms of, they had a very doomed relationship because it was a toxic kind of endless cycle where she was like condoning bad behavior in Jesse, which again, basically, they were drug addicts, and she was the one, kind of like leading to it and just basically leading the charge and leading them down a bad path. And I'm not saying we're doing that exactly here, but it does feel a little bit of a nod.
I mean, like I said, you're obviously more versed in Vegas in the Albuquerque verse than I am.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. But you're right though. Here's what I really loved about it. I love that we had amidst this, we had these really great moments of humanity where we saw that Scott was a really good family man. He did care about his sister and his niece, and also he seemed to be a good father to his kid, even though he was making very bad decisions that his wife was basically kind of like supporting him in.
Yeah, and he was like it's basically the death of his family, death of his sister and niece, like really kind of drove him over way past the deep end.
So speaking of that, so the episode takes place. It's the year. It's the year anniversary for the victims of Chicago, and it's basically Mark Grayson. He's reconciling with the consequence of Cecil had protected him from a lot of like the grieving families and the aftermath and the consequence of like the battles that he's had and the saves and everything. And that was like the one. There was this positive thing that Cecil was actually doing from keeping him from that. But there is a question brought up in the episode.
It's like, or at least positive, and from Mark's perspective.
Yeah, and then again, there's the double edged sword there with Cecil as well with his actions, where it begs the question: like, is not knowing does not knowing the consequence help or hurt Mark? It doesn't make him more a hero of the people if he grieves with them directly and he's like in that world and facing those consequences, or does not knowing does compartmentalizing allow him to be better? Which again, we've season two, the opener of season two was all about that sort of thing, where it was him kind of making peace with what happened, so we can get back to doing the right thing and helping people.
I mean, who knows, man? It's probably what Cecil thought would be best. I mean, Cecil. I mean, like, remember, he's like, he's the one who has to clean up the mess, and maybe that's just the way he saw best to do so.
But yeah, Jacob, I like that we're again subtly we're building back the bridge to Cecil, where I think Mark's getting again. This whole season he's been seeing the gray side of things, the gray sun side of things.
And I don't think he's ever going to fully trust Cecil, but he might be
No.
more willing to cooperate with him.
At the very least, I think he's going to see his his point of view a little bit more. Like he'll get on. Like for example, he's very much just he's shutting out what Cecil. Again, he's very Tiki has joked that he's very much on the prison kick this season. And I think he'll, the idea, because he seriously, look in season 3, he says, he's going to prison. Basically, the way Indiana Jones says it belongs in a museum, Mark says they belong in prison.
Yeah, he might be going an alternate route for all we know.
So I think we're building a path to him at least, like seeing Cecil's perspective and just kind of building a bridge, kind of back to not trusting him, but just the idea of like, I understand why you did this and why you made the decisions you made. I don't fully agree with it, but I understand it.
I mean, as we pointed out, like with Cecil and his predecessor told him, you could be the good guy or you could be the guy who saves the world.
Can't be both.
Exactly.
That is the core theme of the season.
Yeah. And then that's explored even more in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's like but so go on.
Right. Okay, let's see. So a few other things that are going on here. So Paul and Debbie.
Yeah, their relationship is still blossoming, going very well. Like I love when Paul just like like as he says equates being a realtor to being a super. He's like, I hated myself as soon as I said it.
So Paul's a really nice guy.
Yep. Like,
What's funny?
What?
Just there's been a lot of really funny Paul stuff going on where a lot of people have been making basically given Invincible similarity to Spider-Man, or like the parallels to Spider-Man.
Yep.
People have pointed out in the comics lately there's a side character that everyone hates named Paul.
I've heard the name, but I don't know anything about why they hate him so much.
Well, to keep it simple,
does it have to do with the Mary Jane thing?
Pretty much. Well, there was another Mary Jane thing, not the original Mary Jane. Like basically, so historically in the comics, we had the whole Mephisto One More Day thing, right?
Yeah, I know that one.
Then we kind of essentially we fixed it in comics. They were kind of on the path of getting back together and everything after a lot of stuff happened, and just as they basically they were in a good place together, then they dropped Paul in our laps. We're basically without getting to the nitty gritty, it's a long convoluted thing. The point being, Paul kind of is there's a bit of a love triangle thing that went on here. This Paul guy swooped in. He's not married to Mary Jane, but essentially he's with Mary Jane. They're through kind of comic stuff. They kind of had kids together. And basically, it was just this real. No one likes Paul because he's basically destroyed the Peter Parker Mary Jane relationship.
Paul worse than Mephisto.
No, seriously, yeah. I mean, people really hate Paul.
Seriously though, I mean, isn't that why they really like the new Ultimate Spider-Man, because they actually are allowing Peter and Mary Jane to be together?
I mean, pretty much.
And Peter also has a beard.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, the point being, so there's a bad Paul, and then we have great. This Paul is a solid Paul.
Technically, we also have another bad Paul in this show.
I know. Yes, we do. Yeah,
it
still cracks me up.
There are actually two Pauls in this show.
Yep. I was wondering if there was going to be a reveal that that the two Pauls might be related, but they're not.
Yeah, it'd be very weird if it was.
So it'd be absolutely, it would make no sense. So yeah, it's coincidental.
Yeah.
But it's a realistic coincidence you would have in a kind of a world of superheroes, is that you're going to have like all these a couple of guys with the same first name.
I mean, that's how it is, that's how it is with everyone. Like, unless you name your child something completely unique, there's bound to be someone out there with the same name.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've met a couple people with my name.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've met people out there with your name.
Yeah.
So.
Well. Yeah, I guess.
I mean, your real name. I mean.
Well, yeah. Anyway,
I don't know. I doubt there's many other people named Blue Dragon 5 out there.
Well. Anyway,
I guess.
So there's the point they got some nice chemistry. I do like that with Paul's realtor anecdote. He did have something that was kind of that was somewhat thematic, where he said, it's all about reputation, which is
but just kind of fits into the theming of here.
Mm-hmm. And we'll probably fit into what happens in the next episode.
I mean, yep, kind of.
Yep. All right, let's see. So we have some training going on with Oliver.
Taking down the elephant, who apparently was originally Mark's training dummy.
Yep.
It's like, I'm not a training dummy. It's like, no, well, he's using you to train, and you're a dummy, so.
So elephant, very much a parody of the rhino, but he's vegan.
Yep, I kind of noticed that. Like John DiMaggio voiced him, of course.
It's really funny. And listen, we set up here, Oliver. He's very much not listening to his older brother, but like everyone, we love Eve. We're gonna do whatever Eve tells us to. Eve's got a soft touch.
Yep, he knows how to handle the little boy better than he does.
Yep. Anyway, so they have the
speaking of which, I love how he just found a couple kid friends from the last episode.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we have the dad conversation. So we're talking about Nolan again. We're kind of building the path back with Mark. Mark has this conflict with his father, where he has seen his father in a new light despite all the horrible things that he's done. I think this is like Mark getting at. He is unsure like how reformed his father is, and if he does truly regret what he's done. But he does, I think, deep down, through Oliver specifically, he does hope for reform with his father. It's basically, we're building the path to Mark. Deep down, I think he does hope for reform, but the whole D.A. Sinclair thing was very much a knock against any the true reform.
I do kind of like. I do like what he said about his dad to Mark to Oliver. It's like, well, that's a thing. He's two different people. The one we knew as we were kids, and then the Viltrumite he is.
Yep.
I butchered the line, unfortunately, but
mm-hmm.
but that's basically like when Oliver's like, which one's the real dad? And that Mark doesn't know the answer to that question.
Nope.
Again, it's not that simple.
Not that simple.
Yeah, he's starting to see things. Basically, as Debbie pointed out in the last episode, not everything's all black and white.
Yep. Again,
it's not that simple.
Yep. It's all about the gray, son.
The gray, son. All right.
Anyway, okay, let's see. So, so Mark's celebrating his buddy William's birthday, at the bowling alley where he trounces everyone.
And it's like, why are we here again? Because it's my birthday. And he basically, Will just wants to revel in beating everybody for once. Like, being better than Mark at something. Right?
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, so while this is going on, you kind of do a little check-in with Amber and everything to show okay, everyone's moved on, they're on good terms.
It's kind of funny how Mark ends up talking to Kyle more than Amber does.
Oh yeah, well, they're in the seance, dog.
It's like, you watch Seance, dog? Yeah, do you? Only since I was 12? All right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like Kyle. He seems like a very nice guy.
Well, yeah, I believe he's voiced by Corey Payton.
I wasn't paying attention, but yeah.
Anyway, so while this is happening, Powerplex, he's geared up. He's made his move. He's supercharged now, and he basically he's going. Yes.
I didn't say anything.
Okay, he's going down, and he's going down, and he's causing a ruckus, and he's calling Invincible out, and rather hilariously.
Basically, the title card just keeps coming up every time. It's like, when will Invincible pay for his crimes? Invincible must come to me. That kind of thing.
Yeah, like, the title card just keeps coming up.
Yep, repeatedly over and over again.
So again, knowing this is really genius. Knowing how dark the episode's going to end for Powerplex, and again, presumably based on like you said, presumably based on the the black comedy in the comic. This is kind of like a fun fusion of it. Where okay, we're going to infuse a lot of comedy in this moment here, and then things are going to get really dark later, so throw people off the scent.
Yep, we throw it off even more with Shapesmith coming in.
Yes.
Basically, Shapesmith going like, it's like, I'm sorry, who are you looking for? And basically,
the insult that he stuck with Shapesmith of all the characters.
Yep. Yeah, and then Shapesmith doesn't help things by transforming into Invincible.
Yeah.
So what happens next then, Dragon?
So I love this. I love the fact that Powerplex, he really doesn't want to fight anyone but Invincible, and I love this. Again, it's the intrigue with this character. Where again, he's throwing a tantrum, looking for closure. He wants to get into a fight with Invincible so he can say he did everything he could to avenge his loved ones. Shapesmith enters, and he's throwing punches, and again because of his power, like the kinetic absorption. It's basically Gambit without self-control. He
remember it.
Yes. Basically, kind of propels this giant energy blast, but again, unintentionally so. And he's making the point that look, I told him I didn't want to fight. I didn't hit him. That was him. He attacked me, and he kind of goes away, and basically he's going to fail at his big revenge plot here. But again, it's the fact that again he's right. He hasn't quite done anything yet. He's just making a big show of it. And he's maybe thrown a few lightning blasts, but he hasn't hurt anyone.
And like until Shapesmith pummels him over and over, building up the kinetic energy.
Yeah, but again, it's a question of but again, now he's kind of in the Mark position somewhat, where again, well, yeah, even though you didn't intend damage, though you kind of set down the path and to a degree here, where not obviously not in the Chicago incident, but even other instances with Invincible, where we kind of set down the path here in which he stole that technology from the GDA, and now he's now a menace unintentionally.
Yep, and earlier, you'd think like the most dark the episode would get would be his wife beating him with a hammer to build up his kinetic energy.
No, that's actually kind of fun.
Like I said, you think that's as far as it's going to go.
Yeah.
But then, if you really think that, though, you haven't been watching the show, have you?
No. All right, so Plan B is crashing the memorial for the Chicago victims, which, by the way, on a lighter note, I do love the gag of this reminds me of a gag from like All-Star Superman, where basically Superman has to fly Lois in her car to the Fortress of Solitude. Where so Mark's just gonna fly Paul and Mom in the car, and Paul is kind of freaking out.
I love how Paul's like, we have to be in Chicago in 30 minutes. It's like, if we're going to do teleportation, I'm not sure if I'm okay with that. It's like, oh, we're gonna take the car. It's like, oh, that's good. Wait, what? And then he's flying.
And this is what I love in the dialogue, man. This the flair for dialogue. Here's the fact that like Mark's like telling him, Oliver, get in the car because your makeup could come off, or like the tie's you could lose your tie, which again is like a real concern you would have flying at that speed.
He's like, yeah, don't think I won't lose it.
Yep, and then he's like chasing him while he's got Paul in the car, and Paul's just freaking out, like, "Oh, Oliver, please!"
He's like, do it for me.
And this Debbie just shoots Oliver a look like, "Hey, don't scare Paul."
Paul's already scared enough.
Yeah.
Do you think Paul's just afraid of flying in general? Or do you think it's just because he's like, inside a flying car?
I think it's just the flying car thing. I think he'd probably be. I mean, in this day and age, I think we should now. I think now there's more of a credible fear of flying, but and,
not when this episode's probably being started animated.
Oh no, not then. But that's it. So in general, I think it's just the car thing. Like we're not in like a safe engineered like tube. But, we're just a car that was not designed for flight.
Nope.
And it's also probably just it's unevenly just flying because you're basically you're being held up like like Action Comics #1 style.
Yeah. Oh god. Oh, do you think they're going? Do you think that hopefully they recreate that scene in the new Superman movie?
I really hope so too. But you know what? If they don't, Superman and Lois did it.
Well, there you go.
They did the other thing. Superman and Lois did, and Superman Returns did it. So they might not do it here, but it is just we've had it recreated pretty flawlessly in 2 other Superman movies. Superman moments.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, Superman Returns also featured a plane.
Yep. Seriously, I just want to shout that out too. I love that. Superman and Lois, though, we did have that. He was in the Flesher Superman costume, and he can he's basically lifting the green car. It was really cool.
I wonder if they'll. I don't think. Did they do anything like that in My Adventures with Superman?
I don't think we did the green car. There are a lot of other Superman nods, though. So I mean,
it has to be like a green Volkswagen.
I don't think it was. I don't think we.
It's supposed. It's supposed to be like a Volkswagen, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's like it's a Volkswagen or a Beetle or something. It's like, which I think is technically the same thing. Probably, I think so. Yeah. So in Superman Returns, they did the exact car.
All right. No, there we go.
Superman and Lois, which is the green car, looks similar. It was like a modern version of it. Essentially, it was an equivalent to the green Volkswagen.
Now we'll just see if whether or not James Gunn does it in Superman.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wouldn't. I don't know. I mean, he goes a little old school with the references, so it's possible. But I mean, here's the real question: if he's going to use the big key to get into the Fortress of Solitude, that's the real question.
Well, apparently today he shared images of his feet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We have his feet in the snow.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm just saying because we have cryptos. I mean, the other Silver Age thing you do is like the giant key for the fortress.
And that does kind of seem like something James Gunn would do, for considering his sense of humor.
But he could also do the cooler version of the giant key, which was done in All-Star Superman. Which again, he's pulling a lot of there's going to be a lot of All-Star Superman in the Superman movie that he's doing.
All right. As you can tell, we're looking forward to Superman.
Yeah, seriously. Do you remember what the key thing was in All-Star Superman?
No.
Oh yeah, it's really cool. So basically, same premise, but basically the key was like actually the size of a key, but it was like made of like I don't know if it was like dwarf star material or not. Where basically you could only Superman could pick it up. But he's left the key under the mat. Only a Kryptonian could pick it up.
That's funny.
Anyway,
I haven't seen them. I haven't seen the movie version of that in a long time.
And we are getting the robots, so I mean, there's a good chance we're going to get a key gag of some kind. Anyway, so okay, so the point being, we're at the memorial.
Hey, so we talk about like some of the other things, like Rex and Ray and the robot and Monster Girl. Are we gonna do that?
Well, I mean, we can. I was going to mention it right after.
Right,
kind of talk about Eve's big moment at the funeral, but
all right, let's do that. Let's do that then.
All right, that's the thing. So again, Invincible, he's playing it smarter than season 1. He lets Eve beat Powerplex, which I thought was a really good moment. But here's the thing: Eve is gonna, Jacob. I will hint this at you. Okay, Eve's gonna be very important for our finale, assuming they do what I think we're gonna do for the finale. So we gotta get his. we've built up the Eve relationship. Eve's gonna be doing some really impressive things in that last episode, assuming they go the route. And I can't even remember fully what we're gonna be doing with her in the next episode. But let's just say in the finale, Eve's gonna be doing some pretty cool stuff.
Looking forward to it.
So it's important that we're showing that there's a lot of trust in the relationship. They're in a good place, and also Eve is very. I mean, Eve got a whole specials to show how cool she is, and people just in general like Adam Eve. So just doing stuff like this, where there's a really good move. Where she realizes, well, I just realized every time I punch you, you get stronger, so I'm not going to hit you, and just use her abilities to kind of pacify and take him down.
Which is kind of sets up Mark later, to avoid doing the same thing.
Oh yeah. All right. So point being, Powerplex seemingly dealt with until he escapes, and he escapes rather cleverly and using the bashing his head, with the basically building up enough of a kinetic charge.
Yep, and basically taking out the guards with him.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anyway, so meanwhile, before we check back in with him for Act 3, let's talk about our other stuff. So Rudy and Monster Girl, what do you got?
Well, Rudy's working on some kind of temporal belt, basically to stop Monster Girl from reverse aging whenever she switches to her monster form.
Yeah, so basically, she was afflicted with a magical curse, and he's found the bug in the system with that, which essentially is, is like
basically trick the curse, kind of like
trick the curse.
Have the belt keep track of a temporal signature of her cells, and when she transforms back, basically revert it back to the way she was.
So he's kind of found a cure for her.
And despite her previous protests, she actually is grateful this time.
Yep. And I could be wrong. It's been a while. I'm trying to remember. I don't have it in front of me, but at the end of season 2, when we saw the potential future versions of Eve and the gang, I think Monster Girl had the belt.
Oh, nice.
No, I'm pretty sure it was something similar to it. I think she was wearing that. Anyway, but yeah, so Rudy, he's got a cure for her, and she was always kind of poo-pooing the idea of a cure and just kind of accepting her fate there. But he really helped her out. It's a really sweet moment, and this kind of inspires Ray to take the plunge with Rex. We've been setting up their relationship. We kind of confirmed it, and they're
it's like I was kind of hoping they'd be getting together.
Yeah. So Ray, Rex is kind of was there something there? I kind of felt something there.
Yeah, it's like I wouldn't say magical because magic scares me, but maybe somewhat magical. I just love how awkward he is with the whole thing.
Oh yeah,
like we've had so, and this is definitely a deviation from the comic.
Well, yeah,
because Shrinking Ray in the comic was originally a man and died with the Lizard Man attack with the League of Lizards.
Oh yeah.
So this is definitely not something the original comic did. So I don't know if that's setting it up for future tragedy or if they're going to deviate even more, but we'll see.
Yep.
But for right now, things seem to be going well between them. I literally like their conversation about Shrinking Ray wanting to leave and stop being a superhero.
And she kind of sells Rex on because Rex also had a near-death experience, and right now all the superheroing they're doing it's for the most part it's just kind of it's just kind of at a reflex. They're not really doing a lot of team stuff, because again they're just kind of in this transitional phase and just kind of them realizing what are we even doing this for anymore? We've literally given our lives for it. What's the purpose? And again, these are two people that were kind of manipulated by the status quo of superheroes. Like Rex specifically, he was essentially sold to the government by his parents, more or less, and basically turned into a brand. Like we learn his last name was Sloan. It was Rex Sloan. They changed it to Rex Splode.
It's he's like, I don't have a secret identity. This is my identity.
That's that really cool heady idea, and it's the question of identity this go around here, where it's just who are you when they basically transform, like Adam Eve, for example. Eve does not have doesn't really have a truly a secret identity. It's anyone's smart enough to really put two and two together.
Yep.
So it's like, who are you without the superhero wing? And Eve's kind of explored that a little herself, and she's kind of doing a little bit of that now. Like she's found a balance, and it's kind of like they're on their path to potentially ending up like Eve, maybe.
It seems that way. Like either way, Shrinking Ray really seems to just want to just go back to being normal. No, she no longer doesn't want you got shot in the head, Rex, and he brings up the point this is all I've ever known. Do you want to get be basically doesn't want to go back to being ordinary kind of thing. This is all he's ever known. What else can he do?
Oh yeah.
It's kind of sad if you think about it. I mean, if you've done something for so long like that, especially after what he's done and all that, what else would you want to do? You wouldn't know what to do with yourself.
That's the new adventure potentially for them.
It's because especially if Chicken Ray even said I want to take a new risk, even for me and maybe for you.
Oh yeah.
And then they kiss.
Yep.
Oh, which I thought was very nice.
Yeah.
I mean, Dragon admitted you were kind of hoping they would get together.
I was happy with this turnout. I mean, it's kind of a shame they're not going to be superheroes together, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, another theme for the episode, Dragon. You know what I mean?
Yep, it's not
that simple. I love how that's never even said in the show itself. Yeah, we've turned it into a thing. Simply because it's the name of an episode and maybe a line of dialogue in the original comic.
Yeah. All right, so our third act. So the third act confrontation. So I love this for a lot of reasons. One, I love that Donald does have a sense of loyalty to the Grayson family. We've set this up with season 2. He was having his big identity crisis, and the Graysons were very supportive of him.
And he's if Cecil found out about this.
I think Donald's bumping up against Cecil a little bit with the whole him again. Cecil kept secrets from him, and it really affected him.
Yep.
So he kind of gets it, but mind you, he reconciled that Cecil's the secrets that Cecil were keeping were for good reason.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so Donald gives him the lowdown on Scott and basically gives him the full information he kind of needs on this Powerplex guy. So he's kind of armed with the information, and he finds
he's don't worry, he's on a secure. He's securely on route, and then he receives a call wait, what?
Yep.
Really poor timing there, Donald.
Yeah. So, but again, I like that Invincible has played it really smart, not giving into this guy's demands. But now he kind of has a point where the guy's he's threatening a family when really it's his own family. But again, I love the idea that it was the wife's idea. Yeah, we're gonna pretend to be hostages. Admittedly, the baby didn't need to be tied up. That was just kind of a jerk move on Scott's part. But
well, technically, it was also her idea.
I know, but here I don't know. She seems to have I don't know. She seems a little surprised that they I don't know. I
remember she was holding the baby, so be careful with that. She was all in on it. She was openly supporting tying up her own son.
Okay.
I mean, you get that too, right?
No, I get that. A part of me wondered with her saying that meant maybe he added we probably need to tie him up too.
I mean, they probably agreed. They probably decided to go.
But we don't need to know the specifics. I'm just saying that thought. We don't fully know, but it's probably you're right. It is probably her idea. I'm just
I mean, either way, it's probably just so to be as convincing as possible.
Absolutely.
It's if the life of an innocent woman isn't enough to convince you, here's the baby, basically.
Yep. Anyway, so
but he could have done without putting the duct tape on his mouth, though.
That's true. So Powerplex, he's got willingly volunteer hostages.
Well, one willingly volunteer hostage.
And a baby.
The baby is completely innocent in all this.
Yeah. I feel so bad for this kid because again, he's seeing his father they throw a lot of electricity around, and then he's getting duct tape and tied up.
Yeah, the poor baby.
Yeah, poor Jackie boy.
Yeah.
All right, so Invincible makes a plea to an unstable man. And again, here I have a theory here about this scene, and I could be wrong, but I feel there might be a thematic kind of connect between Mark and Powerplex. So Cecil is called out. Mark has kind of hypocritical viewpoint that he kind of needs to get over. Which again, the whole season with the whole, it's not that simple. The good guy and the guy who the guy who saves the world kind of core theme of the season. It's that Cecil is a little right, and that Mark does have a bit of a hypocritical side to him, and the fact is, no, there's no reform, and yet my father, I deep down hope, will get a second chance down the line. So again, he's kind of at war with his own perspective on that, and yet the point being, so Mark's always been has a little bit of like there's always like been a bit of a headstrong kind of stubbornness to him in terms of like not seeing the gray until it's really spelled out to him. We've seen this with Titan. Titan very much has points that Mark agrees to, and had Mark been a little more guarded, perhaps he'd be more protected against like Titan's double cross in season 1. But it's not here nor there. The point being, Mark very much is like he's never listening to Titan when Titan does make an actually good point. He's not entirely wrong for taking that perspective. I'm drifting off focus here. Sorry for that. But I think Mark's somewhat hypocritical view he's seeing in Powerplex here is that Powerplex absolute hypocrite, and that he's doing the things that he's accused Invincible of. He's being reckless with his powers. He's very blinded by revenge here. He's just completely off the mark. And I think Mark, it's a bit of this whole Powerplex situation might be an underlining wake up call to, okay, Cecil may have had a point.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a theory.
Yeah.
Not substantiated, just throwing it out there. Is like maybe that in terms of the timing of Powerplex in the season. And yes, I know this season, honestly, more than season 1. We're very much following kind of chronologically. This is kind of how the comic goes. This whole season's been pretty straightforward. Like this, this is pretty much like how things have gone, like sequentially in terms of the issues and the arcs.
Yeah, so the Powerplex then.
Yep. Then the 7, and then what happens? Hopefully after 7, if we have the room. Let's just say that is my hope. I mean, they announced that actor for that character, but
they did.
I think so. Yeah, actually, I think they did.
Who was it again? Who did you?
Well, Jonathan Banks
as
a certain character,
and they basically confirmed it.
It sounds like they've confirmed it, unless they're really throwing people off the scent. It sounds like they've confirmed it. I don't know which source confirmed it, but essentially, I think it has been confirmed, which makes me happy.
That's the guy you wanted, right?
I know, yeah. I mean, either him or Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Those are the two contenders.
But Jonathan Banks, though, you can't go wrong with that.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a really good performance for him because it'll be him like in a really, that's the goal. That character's really excitable in the comics. I wonder if we're going to have a really excitable Jonathan Banks. We've never really gotten before.
It's a very meaty role.
Yes.
And yes, I mean that in multiple ways.
Oh yeah.
If what I've seen from stills of the comic in any ways, like it's a very, very, very meaty role.
All right. So point being, So Invincible. The point being, just in our timing in the flow of the story, it feels very appropriate for what he's going to be going up against. All right. So let's see. Anyway, so again, we have we have Powerplex's his play for revenge here, and again for very the tragedy of this revenge for very dumb reasons.
And not to mention when Invincible tries to save his wife, save the woman and child, she spits on his face.
Saying you're a monster.
It's like he didn't even get to. He's like what?
All he did is he kicked the guy out of the way, and he said, I'll dig you out of the rubble in a second. We know he's going to be okay."
It's like he's like, "You're a monster." It's like he's like, "What did I do?"
Exactly. Like, what the heck, lady?
It's like I'm trying to save your life here.
Yep. And again, the fact that she doesn't see anything, like, oh, he's trying to save me, it's clearly he's going. Again, the fact of the whole. So that's the frustratingly interesting thing about this episode is that you understand where our bad guy is where our good man who became a bad guy is coming from here.
You understand why his wife is going along with it too.
Yes, we understand all that, but at a certain point, these people seem really dumb for like, okay, so your plan is that he's going to save you because he's such a monster, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's just like that's the flawed logic. But again, unstable people, or at least an unstable person with a very supportive wife.
Yes. Supportive in all the wrong ways.
And I have to wonder on some level, just maybe, I have to wonder on some level if maybe there's a bit of like a subtle dig at Breaking Bad in not a dig at Breaking Bad, but just kind of an acknowledgement of the Breaking Bad fan base of so in Breaking Bad you had Walter White and you had Skyler White. And Skyler White is a very let me put it this way. I think the character has ups and downs, which then we perfected in Better Call Saul. Is we have like our main wife character in Breaking Bad, and the idea is okay, so she would, for purposes of conflict, she would be against what Walt is doing, but of course we, the audience, like Walt, who is doing bad things, but again, he's doing them for the right reasons, at least initially. And she's just we're feeling like, oh, why you got to kick poor Walt while he's down. And because of that, the fandom just very much turned against Skylar blindly. When I think there are times early on, I think the turn on her is justified. Season 2 was not a good season for her. I will say that. I will stand by that. But season 4 onward, it's like there's a lot more of a defensible position for her, and things. That's when Walt's kind of turning a lot more dark, and it's like, okay, I get where she's coming from. Sorry, this is the long-winded way of me saying that it feels like this is like the response to, let's give you a very supportive wife character. We're going to see the dangers of that.
Oh, God.
So I wonder if that might be a bit of like just like given a lot of the Breaking Badness that we are infusing into Invincible. I wonder if this season of Invincible, I wonder if maybe it's a bit of a nod to kind of like the female kind of character bias on Skylar White, where again, Better Call Saul, we have the best version of Skylar ever with Kim Wexler, who's a wonderfully defined character who is like great from start to finish.
Yeah, I know what you mean there.
Okay.
I guess I just can't speak on Breaking Bad.
No, well aware. Okay, so Jabe, tell them the sad thing that happens. What happens when So now he's supercharged by that kick, and he inflicts a little bit of Invincible, doesn't he?
And again, we see basically this image here.
Mm-hmm.
This is the image we chose for the thumbnail. A very shocking image.
Oh yeah.
Let's just say this.
Death by Pikachu.
Yes, it's like a very. Let's just say this is kind of a coping mechanism for me.
Yeah.
Because what happens next, Dragon, I've told you this before, like, not a lot of things elicit a reaction of Jesus out of me,
Yeah.
And what happens next literally elicited like a Jesus. Yeah, he put out so much electricity into Invincible, it fried his wife and son.
And during the fight, Invincible said, "Hey, your family's here. Don't do this."
Yeah.
And again, just it is.
And
not only do we don't do it like off screen. Well, we don't the death occurs off screen. But we don't like shy away from the body. We see the most horrific thing of the bodies you could see.
We literally see their charred skeletons.
Now, again, folks, this isn't just like we didn't just see the wife's charred skeleton and like a lump for the baby. We saw both bodies, an infant's body.
Yeah, it's like I said. I wouldn't have had that reaction if it was just the wife, but the fact that it was the wife and son,
and he's caressing his infant son's hand.
It's like Jesus Christ.
It is, and it's just brutal. And then Mark can't win. This is just a tragedy on top of a tragedy.
Oh yeah.
Because he gets blamed for it. Like I don't have electrical powers. I didn't do this. Anyway, so he basically grabs the guy's hands, lets him just kind of fry himself out until he basically then is just kind of sobbing. And kudos to Aaron Paul. Aaron Paul gave a very, very good performance here, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, it's like basically he barely speaks for the next moment after he just goes after he's like you did this to them. like he doesn't want to admit that he's responsible for his wife and son's death.
Well, I just mean in general, like the whole episode's pretty good
Oh
performance
yeah,
on Aaron Paul. But
but
yeah,
oh yeah, definitely.
it's impressive. He's essentially sobbing through like the whole episode, and yet it doesn't just feel like he's like like a Perry, like a crybaby or anything. It feels like he's just a man, genuinely bereft, and he's just kind of working his way up. And then we have this moment here where this is the complete breakdown. And again, there's another. I know you're not familiar with Breaking Bad. I'm just going to throw this at you, okay? Him having the emotional breakdown the way he does. This is a nod to a very Aaron Paul as Jesse Pinkman has had a lot of really devastating low moments in which something really bad, a lot of really bad stuff happens to Jesse Pinkman, and this is one of those moments where it's kind of a nod to, oh, what are we doing to the poor Pinkman boy? This is like the breakdown of the dead family. Yes, look what we've done to the poor Scott here.
Really?
Oh yeah. So it's kind of a nod to, man, we just torture Aaron Paul all the time.
Oh, apparently he's a good actor though.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. All right, let's see. So again, we're in the prison, and again, and again, it's the fact that again, giving Invincible a job where he guards the prison, so he would have a reason to be there, and it's kind of like this moment. I want to say does feel rather intentional that he is. It's him confronting his mentality of putting him in prison, and he's everything that's put this guy in prison. He feels really bad about everything that's happened about it, and it's just this the fact that he's taken a position and he's had a very specific case that's directed at him that put this guy in prison, and he just I think it's affecting him, and again getting him to that point where he's seeing maybe past the hypocrisy and just past I don't trust Cecil, but I see why he did what he did.
And his speech at the end to Powerplex.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I know he's like, I understand their names and I understand it. Basically, he's like, you think that's a comfort to me?
Yeah, him saying, "I hope that's a comfort to you." That when again, that's what I'm saying. The moment he says that, that to me is like that's where the tough love moment should have been. Like, what did you want me to do reasonably? I tried to save your sister and niece, but a building was coming down. Okay, I can't control how that works, and that just feels like it. Like it should have been like, look, Scott, you don't want it. This is not going to be what you want to hear right now, but you put yourself in this position. I told you at every turn not to do this. I tried to, not get involved. I gave you your space. I tried saving them. It wasn't. What did you want me to reasonably do?
Oh yeah, but I think Mark was too shocked. Well, pun unintended, but too shocked by what he said to even basically lay into him even more.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yep. It is an interesting position though, just to be in. Though again, there are no right things to say, and even if you say the harsh thing, it just for the greater. But again, that's him. Mark wouldn't do that because if he did do that,
He'd be
Cecil, which he doesn't want.
But he's admitting that Cecil might not always do the right thing, but at least sometimes he has a good point.
Exactly, and again, I think this moment it's a confirmation for him that he's going to remember this horrific outcome, and again, Invincible getting all the blame will very much carry over into the next episode.
Yeah, it's like, Dragon, there's something again. We're gonna bring it up again, but there's something you can say about this.
It's not that
simple.
All right, so I'm sorry. So you were saying Powerplex, his last lines there about the comfort.
Yep. I mean, that's basically it. I mean,
Yep.
it's basically him saying you're saying that you remember their names, you know them. You think my wife, my sister and my niece are dead. My wife and son are dead. Do you think your words are any comfort to me? Basically.
Yeah, pretty much like when I get out of here,
I'm going to find you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not yelling, and that's what makes it even more terrifying.
Yeah, that's Aaron Paul for you. He's not just gonna, he's not just gonna yell blindly. It's
like he's just like, I'm going to find you.
Oh yeah.
Will he be? Do you know if he's going to be in the next episode?
Powerplex will be back. I don't know if that's the thing. I don't know if structurally we're going to how fast we're going to turn on that. So I don't know if he would be out instantly or not. So I don't know if he's going to be out between the next two episodes or if it's going to carry over the next season. I don't know. I don't know, just pacing, and this is what I'm saying. If this, in my opinion, would be a moment of Kirkman maybe doing like an Under the Red Hood, where maybe if Powerplex, even if he does show up in the comic, when in the next two episodes, I don't think we should necessarily bring him back because it just feels too soon.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. So that brings us to our post-credit scene, which is the big build-up for episode 7. Something really big happens, so we confirm
Angstrom Levy.
Angstrom Levy. He indeed that is the same Angstrom Levy. He is
he has the head.
Stitched, yep.
He has the head.
He's got the head. He's been stitched together. Now, a lot of people, the Invincible purists have been kind of upset about the design, but
I like the fact that he's not like all brainy and veiny and things like that.
Well, what they don't understand is look, the more detail you add to that drawing, the harder he's going to be to animate, especially during an action sequence. So I'm satisfied. But here's the thing: he looked really gnarly, and it was like one of those. It's basically a Kirby drawing. Where a lot of the time, even the great Jack Kirby, okay, Kirby stuff. Sometimes there was a fine line between simple enough that it could play really well in the action. On the other hand, there was a lot of inconsistencies in the drawing, and in the comic. Angstrom Levy, he had a really super messed up face that was never consistent between panels, just looked really ugly and raw, and that was the point. But it's like, to bring that in the animation, you need something you can actually move so it doesn't look completely off model in the shots. Right. And people already...
And there are even scenes in the different comics, where they're like these super detailed, obviously these super detailed shots and all that, and then there are like ones that are just more borderline flat and 2D kind of things.
Yeah, which they called out in season 2 as well.
I'm talking about in the comic as well.
No, I'm saying they adapted that. In the comic, when they pointed that out, they also pointed that out in season 2.
Yeah, so so it's basically the art can be inconsistent sometimes.
Yeah, so again, look, that happens. But again, here's the thing. I feel bad for.
But before we move on, Dragon, what do they say about animation?
It's not that
simple. We had to work that in somewhere for that one.
True. But that's the thing, Jacob. It's like I feel so bad for Invincible because Invincible's delivering us nothing but gold. But a lot of not even just the purists for the comic, but everyone's always griping about the animation. Where I say, look, guys, they acknowledge the limitations of the animation season 2, and I think they've been really delivering on. Yeah, Invincible before the action scenes occur, it's really talky. So because of that, there's only so. I don't care if we're getting it out regularly. The animation's delivering. We have the big moments. They really hit. I don't care if the animation's not blowing the doors off every scene. It's okay.
And they obviously need to save the animation for the big action stuff.
Exactly. They're saving it for the finale. Here's the one thing they do need to fix. And again, I think they've probably, now mind you, they haven't really had to deal with this. And if they do what I think they're going to do for the finale of the season, they're going to have to do it again. So I'm going to take you back, Jacob. Finale of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
There was an animation issue, and again, because they throw a lot of it into, they were doing some stuff that we haven't really seen before, and it was the first season. They didn't really know if they're going to get other seasons. Well, truly, they didn't know if how many seasons they were going to get. You had the extras during the action sequence were a little skimped out on. Little bit, if you really look at it with a fine-tooth comb. I've watched this with some animation buddies who really they scrutinize these details, and I never noticed them until they pointed out, oh wait, what? So it's kind of I guess the best example I have for you is you remember in the Hunchback of Notre Dame where we kind of used the early crowd system?
Yeah.
It was kind of like a better version of that, where if you really look with a fine-tooth comb under a magnifying glass in the finale of the battle in the first season, the season finale battle from Invincible, The extras are kind of CG'd a little bit, and it kind of shows if you really pay attention. But again, because the content and the action that we are seeing is so good, it's not a deal breaker. Now, my hope is that something like that, when we get to a sequence that is on that caliber where we need it to be, that needs to surpass or measure up to the finale of season one this season happens, maybe we massage that out. That is my hope. Maybe that's where that budget is going to.
Well, I mean, and I think due to the success of Invincible season 1 and 2, they might be allowing them a bit more budget.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, so Angstrom Levy. The point being, Angstrom Levy's got a decent design, maybe not full on like the comic, but I think it hits all the hallmarks of the comic. He's got a big scar.
I mean, if they have like this giant brainy guy walking around in the animation the entire time, it's gonna be too taxing to animate on a TV budget.
Yeah. So the point being, he looks good, if not good enough.
You can say they struck a fine medium.
I think so. I really do.
I mean, obviously, I saw like a side by side comparison on X, and I was like, I don't really see what the big deal is there. I mean,
yeah.
The funny thing is, like, it was like a quote tweet. It was like a quote tweet or whatever, but it said like people are saying this have no idea how animation works.
That's true.
I mean, I'm not going to claim to be an expert in animation, but yeah, that would be like maybe if it was had a movie budget, they would be able to pull it off, but obviously not in a long form animated series like this.
It's one of the reasons you didn't see Clayface a lot in the original Batman the Animated Series.
That's where they like obviously like saved his big scene for the end when he's shifting between all the people.
Well, it's also that's why they saved it for TMS.
Because they're like the best studio who could do that kind of thing.
Part 1 was not animated by TMS. That was it was a different studio. That again, you want to save the big full body morphing effects for TMS.
Yeah, yep. That's where they put because that's where they're putting all their dollars into for that one.
Oh yeah. Anyway, so yeah, so anyways, point being, Angstrom, so we confirmed that, okay, the Angstrom Levy that we are seeing is the stitched together, repaired, one from the end of season 2, which is big because, we've revealed that, okay, Mark, his big kill was not actually killed.
So his first real kill was actually the future immortal.
Yeah, which again, that was a guy literally asking, for death, and he's immortal, so, he's
a mercy kill.
Yeah, plus technically, Immortals had his head cut off before, and he's been fine. He's like the act of not putting the head back together. That's Merv. That's on the twins.
And technically, that could be undone considering things might change. The timeline might change.
That is true. So that's what I'm saying. So that one technically Immortal really doesn't count for a variety of reasons. But the point being, so our big death moment with Invincible. Yeah, I think we've kind of undone it. This is kind of a big deal for him.
Yeah, so we'll see. And of course, that means he's also the one who's been spying on Mark and the Grayson family.
But that's not all.
He has gathered other Invincibles.
He has gathered the famous army of Invincibles. So in the comic, there was this big panel, this big page. This big page with a number of panels where essentially it shows you all the variants of the Invincibles, like in these little kind of like headshot kind of panels. And it's like the idea, oh my God, look at the variety, look at all those Invincibles. So the idea is we've kind of taken it as a jumping off point, and we show all of those Invincibles were literally adapted into this image where they're all just standing there. So if you freeze frame, you look at it like, oh my God, that's all of them. That's all the bad Invincibles from the multiverse.
Like the one that has the mustache.
Yeah, the one with the mustache, the one in the Omni-Man costume. The
one in the mask.
A number of them from the Angstrom Levy episode from season 2. At the start of it, we saw the different Invincibles that ruined his life.
Yep.
So that is interesting that he is real. The fact that, again, because he can't reconcile the Invincibles, he's just now basically just gone completely off the deep end. Yeah, I'm going to use all the ones that ruined my life to get the one good Invincible.
So it's like they're the ones that ruined his life, and he's going after the one who tried to save him.
Exactly.
Which is insane.
Yep. And again, the one who wouldn't have beaten him to near death had he, well, seemingly death, the one who basically didn't beat him to a bloody pulp, again, had he not threatened his family, tortured poor Debbie Grayson.
and broke her arm through.
Yep. Through Oliver, all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's like anyway. So that is interesting. This is a warm up, and here's the thing. Ultimately, with the Army of Invincibles, the big takeaway from this is that in the grand crux, in the grand kind of placement of our many seasons of Invincible that we have coming at us, this is kind of a warm up for the limited number, the limited army of Viltrum.
Because as basically said in the beginning of this episode in the recap, there are less than 50 pure-blooded Viltrumites in the universe.
So putting him against an army of himself, of half Viltrumites, that's still, I mean, those numbers add up, kids. So he's so that thing is roughly like, I don't know the number offhand. I'm gonna throw out 9, maybe 9 or more. Mark Grayson's.
It's not gonna go well for him.
Yes, this is and folks, let's just say again, if they end things the way I think, again, they're the warm up. Oh god, then if all these like half-blooded, just Viltrumites are coming at him, he's gonna be dealing with them. Let's just, folks, you're gonna hope. A part of you is gonna hope, but also hope against that. Maybe this episode will all be contained in one episode. Because these episodes have always been really dense. We get a lot of material in one episode.
I mean, this episode, usually they're like around 30, 40 minutes. This is closer to like 50 minutes.
Yeah, well, no, that's what I'm saying. They can go up to 50. They've gone up to 50 minutes.
I know, but just saying it's like, it's an average kind.
Yeah, they don't do 30 minutes. They've done way over 30 minutes, Jacob.
I know, but maybe like 40, 45 minutes.
My point being, they're really dense, any one episode singularly. So a lot of stuff happens. And my hope, I'm just going to predict this. My hope is that we do the Invincible War. Essentially, that's one of the nicknames for it, the Invincible War, all in one episode. And then, like, right at the tail end, either as our post-credit or as the very end of the episode, is like, oh, trouble just showed up.
Another Viltrumite.
That's what I'm hoping for. If that happens, I will be, oh my god, yes.
Unless they save him as a tease for the for the next season.
I know. I mean, look, this Invincible War is enough to. I know. Look, the Invincible War is enough to wet our palate for 2 episodes. It could, but I'm really hoping, like, that would like knock it. Because again, we've been promising an amazing finale. Maybe look, Kirkman could, in saying there's going to be an amazing finale. This could be amazing enough. I mean, just look at it; it's pretty impressive, and you could see it carrying on for 2 episodes. But I don't know, man. You want to shock and awe everybody. You want what's going to potentially come in the finale.
Oh boy.
Anyway, that's the end.
Yep. So we'll see how this goes. Either way, it's not going to be simple.
Nope.
Things are not going to go well for Mark Grayson. When do they ever go well for him?
And if everyone's kind of annoyed by us saying it's not that simple all the time, all I can say is I'm sorry.
And also, it's not that
simple. Goodbye, everybody.
Because we're not going to stop.
Nope.